name is Katie, and I'm coming at you from my little home studio. I used to be an art teacher before becoming a stay-at-home mom, and with today's uncertain times, I thought I would put together a little art lesson for kids to be able to go and do in their home. I'm sure by now they're missing the classrooms and their teachers, and I know a lot of my students in the past really looked forward to art and music and media. So I'm sure there's an aspect of that that's kind of missing right now with things the way they are. So here's your opportunity, everyone, to get out from in front of Disney Plus and go and make something, make a masterpiece. Today we're going to be working with materials that you probably have laying around your house to make a collage. So what is a collage? A collage is an artwork made from a variety of materials put together. So those materials could be paper, fabric, objects, all of the above. And when put together, they make a piece. So for example, here is a collage that I've made in the past out of magazine clippings, pictures that I found in magazines. Today's artwork is going to involve texture rubbings. So we are going to go and find things around our house that have texture, and we're going to make rubbings of those objects, if you will, and then we're going to put them all together to make something. I'll show you how in just a sec. Take a look at this guy. While you might not recognize who he is, you probably recognize the book he's holding. This is Eric Carle, the author and illustrator of The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Eric Carle uses collage and paint techniques to create his whimsical characters and his lovable stories. You probably have this book sitting on your bookshelf, or you've at least read it when you were younger. If you have it, dig it out and take a look at it. If not, you can Google him and look at some of his wonderful collage artworks online. Parents, if you're watching and you're kind of struggling right now playing homeschool teacher, and maybe your kid's school isn't really sending lessons regularly yet, this could be a good way to add literacy into your child's day. After they make their masterpiece, have them create a story around it as if it were a page in a book, just like Eric Carle's. The materials you'll need to complete your masterpiece include crayons, glue, scissors, and paper. When it comes to the crayons, it's better if they're actually naked crayons, so go ahead and peel off those wrappers. This is also a good time to use up all the little broken bits of crayon that you might have in your crayon box. Those work great for rubbing. Glue. Now you can use glue stick, or you can use wet glue. If you use wet glue, just remember a little bit goes a long way, so just a dot, not a lot, when you go to glue down your papers. When it comes to the paper, you can save the environment actually, and use paper that you printed that maybe you never ended up using, because you only need the one side. So go ahead and dig through the recycle bin and use up those papers that you misprinted first, and scissors. Okay, so what is texture rubbing? How do you do it? Texture is the way something feels. Bumpy, smooth, lumpy, gritty, and textures all around your house. Even things that you don't think really have texture and that are smooth, like your walls and maybe some of your floors or countertops, actually probably have a lot of texture. So what you're going to do is you're going to use those naked crayons and you're going to find textures around your house to make rubbings of. So for example, I have this piece of scrap cardboard. I'm a lot about recycling and using scrap, and I'm going to show you how to go ahead and do a rubbing of that. So here we go. So you just take your paper and you put it down on whatever texture you're trying to create the rubbing of, and you're going to take those crayons and you're just going to press pretty hard, because you want to get a nice imprint of that texture. You want to fill your paper with color, so you will have to use your muscles and the side of the crayon. What I like to do also is overlap colors and similar colors even. So I have red here I've been using. So I'm gonna use purple now, and I'm gonna continue to do my texture rubbing of this piece of cardboard. And I'm gonna overlap some of that red and purple together in some areas to fill my paper with this cool kind of line pattern that this cardboard is making. So, tips are to press hard. You really want to get that color on there. And blend. So, overlap basically. That gives you more variety when you go to make your final piece. So that's the texture rubbing of a piece of cardboard that I had laying around. And it's pretty much as easy as that. Your goal should be to fill probably like 6 pieces of paper with different textures that you can find around your house. So happy hunting. And do a wide variety of color, because when you go to sit down to make your artwork, the colors might speak to you in ways that you didn't think. Might give you some inspiration to make something that you might not normally make. So grab your paper, grab your crayons, and go find some textures. Here are just a couple of textures I found. Welcome back. You're joining me in my dining room now, where I have more room at the table to work on this collage. So now that you have scoured your house and you have all of your texture rubbings and your colorful papers, it's time to create. I showed you some of mine, and when you're trying to think of an idea, if you're having a hard time, you might want to take inspiration by some of your favorite color papers. So for example, when I did all mine, I really am drawn to some more than others. I really like this blue one. I like the way that this yellow and orange one came out, and I also like the way this green one came out. So when I first started to do the rubbings, I kind of thought maybe I was gonna make a spring picture of a bird, because I've been watching the birds at my bird feeder recently, and it's kind of a gray day. It's been 2 gloomy days, so it's something that brightens my mood. But when I see these 3 colors, it actually reminds me of sunflowers. So I think I might actually change my mind and make my artwork about a sunflower today. So that's the beauty of it. You might see your rubbings and decide that you want to do something completely different than what you might have thought you wanted to do. If you have no ideas yet, some might include flowers, animals, food or fruit, robots, or landscapes. It's really endless. You can really make all kinds of wonderful pieces with your papers. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start making my collage right now. Okay, so again, I really like this blue paper that I made, and collage is all about cutting up and putting back together in a different way. But I think I'm gonna use this as my background. So that's a tip for making collage. Think about what your background is going to be and build on top of that. So really kind of lay out your pieces before you glue them. So I'm going to go ahead and use this blue piece as my background, and then you'll see me through the video go ahead and cut the shapes I need to make my sunflower collage from the rest of my color papers. So I am going to be cutting and reassembling and reorganizing and gluing onto this background piece. your background piece doesn't have to be all one paper. So you might actually decide that you want to combine different aspects. Like, for example, I have this blue here too, so maybe I go ahead and cut it out, and then I might, cut that into other pieces and glue that down also to kind of add to my background, give it a little bit more interest, and break up the texture that's already here. So you see how this kind of breaks up the texture. So maybe I will go ahead and do that too, because I like the way that looks. And that's collages like that. You might change your mind or change things around. So I'm gonna use this extra little bit of blue that I have and kind of add depth to my picture. So it's very forgiving, which means you can make a lot of mistakes, and that's awesome because that's what art's supposed to be about. So with that said, start from the background, work your way forward, and you're going to be cutting shapes that you need out of your texture papers to create your final artwork. Here we go. Okay, so now that my piece is pretty much complete, I noticed that I want to add a little bit more contrast to some of the texture rubbings that I did. So I'm actually going to use my crayons, and I'm going to go in and just kind of darken some of the areas that I want to really make pop against the bright leaves of my sunflowers, for example. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to kind of just darken the edges of where the brown part of the sunflower is, the center, just so that it makes the leaves pop even more. This isn't necessary, but if you want to, you can certainly embellish your final piece in whatever way that you feel speaks to you as the artist. So I'm just going to kind of go in and do a few things here and there before I am going to call this finished. As you can see, here's my final artwork. I went ahead and added the contrast by just adding a little bit more brown and yellow to the center and to the petals of the sunflowers to make them pop a little bit more. Feel free to make changes to yours as well if you feel like it needs it, because this is, after all, your masterpiece. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I can't wait to see all of your artworks, so please make sure to take a picture and post in the comments. Thank you. Here are a few more examples of texture rubbing collages I found on the net.